you're not, yeah, you don't live in isolation. And then if the things that you do, even if you like them and you think they're innocent, affect other people, apparently you can't do them or you'll get in trouble. That's how it
Yeah,
works, right?
that's how it works.
That's just the reality of things. But that means you're not free.
You're not free. Yeah,
No,
you're not free.
ever.
You're always bound to something because
Some kind of rules and
like the
regulations.
opposite of you or the opposite of whatever, right? Because like the whole idea, if you say light, it implies darkness or white or vice versa. So you're relating to something. So meaning that you're not free from that thing, right? So you always, we don't exist in a vacuum. So, it's, but in,
It
that's
also
a
kind of
sobering
reminds me
thought.
of, yeah, yeah, it made me think about the different ideologies and the fact that if a society has different kind of groups within it with conflicting ideologies, that's kind of a problem.
It's
Because
been a
then these,
problem and it has continued
yeah,
on to be a problem.
this is how society would continue to fracture. It has no way of unifying.
Yeah.
So ideally, you would want to have one ideology in society. I mean, more or less, or at least they're when they're not conflicting directly as much.
But
So
see that's the tricky part, right?
I don't know how you solve for that
It
though.
is impossible to solve because as far as we're
Yeah,
concerned right now, it's kind of like, well, everybody have because the center of the conflict is that there is no be all end all solution because when you talk about, let's say, a specific um, ideology, I mean, some people agree with it, some people don't. So how do you, because the moment if you say, okay, this is it, this is the only thing you can agree on, but then that's totalitarian. You're controlling all thoughts and all possible
yeah,
outputs. But conversely, if you just have a whole bunch of different voices and no coherent kind of thing, then that also does like it also doesn't work. So it's like what we were saying about the how to speak, right? There is the middle ground that we kind of have to practically get to because at one hand, like we're saying, I can't just go on and talk about a whole bunch of nonsense and think that's okay, right? But conversely, I also don't want to control myself so much that I'm like literally are not
right.
expressing myself, right? So
Yeah,
I just think that it's like everything. There's a balance there. You gotta
some kind of
achieve
middle ground.
middle ground, right? Where okay, we can if we can have enough people agreeing that this is a good idea, then we can go from it will be good enough to start a staging point.
Yeah, I would see how that works. It's just to align this process and to make it some like harmonious hasn't been possible so far, really. The other day, I saw somebody's idea and it was very roughly described, but essentially they were saying something like the future use of technology, even things like crypto or quantum computing. They just threw in a bunch of buzzwords. But essentially, the point is one day it might be possible that technology would allow us to have some kind of truly, absolutely fair voting system. Which imagine if every person on the planet had this voting mechanism in place where somehow it's so secure and it's connected and your vote where you would vote locally, you would vote on a municipal level, you would vote on the governmental level, but then you would also vote on a planetary level and everybody's vote would count objectively, automatically, encrypted to perfection. That's an interesting because right now I don't no, I don't influence, I don't not participate in any decisions at all
Right.
because I don't trust any of the systems because they rely on people who are in power, who are not interested in what you have to say. But if there was a system in place which would be counting everybody's opinions of every, and we're all so different with our abilities, with our education, with our priorities, etc., but some kind of common truth would emerge from all of that, which we would all have to agree because it would literally be a mirror of all of us. Well, looks like the majority of us think that this is the best idea. And it would mean that essentially that idea gets accepted, even though some people, some kind of minority would not be served by adopting that idea. But that's the only thing that makes sense, because otherwise you have just a bunch of these fractured minorities which constantly at war with each other because they want things their own specific way and not exactly like that, but like this. But here, if everybody agreed that this is the best course of action and we'll all honor it and we'll all have an honest stake, honest say in each decision making, I think that would be a pretty good way to do things.